This is WAAY 31 Law Call.
Welcome to WAAY 31 Law Call. I'm Robert Lane, setting in for Sharon Doviet. This is the only live legal call-in show in North Alabama, and we're very glad you're here. And to our friends who are watching on Facebook from all over the world, welcome too. Our topic tonight, DUI. DUI and maybe a little other criminal coming in there. So what happens if you get arrested, if you get stopped? Is there jail time? So many questions to ask. With me is William Maservi.
How's it going? Doing well.
My favorite Eagle Scout.
Oh, thank you.
If I was getting a lawyer, I would get an Eagle Scout. I think that's a good thing. Also, William speaks Spanish. So if English is not your first language, you want to ask a question, this is the show for you.
Hey.
How are things going?
We'll see how the viewers do with it. Doing well. Glad to be here tonight, and looking forward to a good show, Robert.
Well,
with us, Brian Beck.
Hey, Brian.
How are you?
Listen, as we're getting phone calls ready, we're going to watch a little video. So here, let's take a look at You Make the Law Call. This is actually from Mobile, our sister station down there. This is a drunk driver case, and... Oh!
Yeah. So we've got a two-lane highway, with a dash cam going down one lane, and the other driver, who is intoxicated, has come over into his lane, right? Caused this accident. And unfortunately, we see this more than we'd like to, but this is sort of the crux of tonight's show, right? Because from this one incident, this driver, who is intoxicated, will be facing both criminal and civil liability, right? So there's a civil component to this where the injured party in the vehicle that was struck will be going after the drunk driver for monetary damages. And that's sort of what we do at our office on a day-to-day basis. The other side of that is this driver's going to face some form of criminal liability as a result of driving while intoxicated, right? And that's Brian Beck's realm.
That's right. That's right, yeah. This person's going to be facing at least a misdemeanor charge, a DUI, at best is a misdemeanor, a Class A misdemeanor, carries a range of punishment up to 365 days in jail, up to a $5,000 fine in the city of Huntsville, according to our city code. But it can be far worse if we're involved in an accident, if there are injuries involved. That's going to make things worse for someone who's accused of that crime.
Well, if you have a question for either of our lawyers, give us a call. It's 256-536-0077, and you can also text us at that same number, and we'll get your question that way. Yeah. So, go ahead.
So, when we see wrecks like this, right, it does matter when you're the injured party who hits you, because when you're hit by a driver who's under the influence of alcohol, it entitles an injured party not only to what we call compensatory damages, which are what we're typically pursuing in motor vehicle collisions, things like medical bills, pain and suffering, lost wages, all those sorts of things you typically think about. But in these instances, there's another form of damages called punitive damages for the essentially recklessness of the drunk driver. And those really have nothing to do with the injured party, but are to punish the wrongdoer and similarly situated wrongdoers to deter that type of behavior in the future. And so, there's really these two forms of damages that arrive on the civil side as a result of these types of collisions. So Brian, what happens in these situations, because unfortunately what we sometimes see is, well, I guess we would say fortunately, there's a camp of people who get a DUI and tend to turn things around in their life.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And then there's unfortunately a camp of people who get a DUI and then tend to get another DUI,
Sure.
and then tend to get another DUI.
Recidivism, not a great word. Yeah. Repeat offender.
Repeat offender, right?
Yeah, you'll see that.
So, it may be possible for that person to get a misdemeanor on that first DUI.
But things can quickly get out of hand.
And tell us how that happens.
Well, your first offense, if you don't have any kind of significant criminal history or anything along those lines, you might qualify for what we call the diversion program, where you would go to some classes, jump through some hoops, pee into a cup, pay some fines, fees, and costs, and then upon your successful completion of the diversion program, that case would actually be dropped. That would be null prost, which is just a fancy term meaning drop. Eligible for expungement, which is a separate legal process by which we would make it as if it never happened. However, if there's a wreck involved, if there are injuries involved, if there are children involved, if there are ancillary charges brought, that might disqualify you from participating in that diversion program. And as you rack up DUIs over the course of a 10-year look back that we have here in the state of Alabama, then things get worse and worse. You're starting to look at mandatory jail time, then it's not long before you're looking at a felony where you can go to prison.
Wow. Guys, are you ready for your first question?
Ready.
Sure. All right. We have Leroy's been watching by streaming. He's down in Birmingham. Leroy, what's on your mind tonight?
Yeah, I was rear-ended by a guy up in Athens, Alabama. It hit me about 30, 45 miles an hour. And I don't know what kind of recourse I got to have, and he was under the influence of alcohol.
Yeah. So, if you're injured in that wreck, then you have a claim, right? And your claim is against the liability insurance for the intoxicated driver, okay? Now, what we unfortunately sometimes see is that, hey, the intoxicated driver didn't have insurance. And that's when it becomes important that you have what's called uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage. It falls under full coverage, and it's what protects you if you get hit by somebody with no insurance or not enough. Increasingly important in the state of Alabama, as the latest statistics I saw were that 1 in 5 drivers in Alabama has no form of liability insurance. They purchase it, but they're not unable to make the monthly premium payment, and that coverage lapses. And so, the statistics are pretty high that should you be in a wreck, you're going to, need some additional coverage. And so that is your recourse. Your recourse is to pursue the individual for the damages that you suffered. And that could be, medical expenses, it could be time missed from work, it could be pain and suffering and mental anguish. And in this instance, like we discussed earlier, you'd also have that claim for punitive damages. And that would be true even if this guy was uninsured. Right. Because your uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage through your own full coverage states that you can recover whatever damages you're legally entitled to against that coverage as well. And so you're insured if you have that coverage for this type of loss.
Brian, with Veterans Day close at hand, there's a special court for the veterans?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a veterans court, both at the municipal level and at the county level. There's a veterans court that's run by Judge Cleveland at the city court, and then at the county, it's Judge Ruth Ann Hall runs the veterans court. So if someone has served their country, then they might have another option, a lot like the diversion program that we talked about earlier, that someone would, these cases would be set aside. They'd be given an opportunity to go to some classes, to do urinalysis, to pay some fines, fees, and costs. Quite often those might be waived, in connection with their participation in veterans court. The idea being that they get this case dismissed. And really all they'd need to do is have their DD 214 available to them, and they might be able to avail themselves of the veterans court.
Now what is different between a traditional court, if I were in there for whatever the reason may be, or if I was a veteran and got to go to veterans court? How's that handled differently?
Sure. In like a veterans court or like a mental health court or some other diversion program, something along those lines, what they do is they would initially take a plea in connection with that case and then set that plea aside. Give that person an opportunity to complete these courses. Someone who wasn't eligible for a veterans court, wasn't eligible for diversion, wasn't eligible for a mental health court, something along those lines, they're going to have to address their court or address their case normally and compel the state or the city to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt, or to enter into what we call a plea agreement.
Okay, and so as part of that plea agreement, there might be fines or even jail time that gets suspended.
Sure.
Pending completion of this diversion program, which could be, anger management courses, it could be safe driving courses, what?
Ideally, yeah. If you're in diversion, then they usually don't give you a set sentence right there. They can sentence you anywhere in the sentencing range. You know, the judge can say, okay, you messed up a little bit. We're going to, you know, take you out of the diversion program, put you on probation. You messed up a lot. We're going to take you out of the program and throw you in jail.
Gotcha.
So then the judge has all the discretion, and that's their prerogative on what they need to, on what they can do with those cases.
We got a text question. They wanted to know if medications are treated like DUIs, if you're on medications.
Absolutely. Yeah. Can someone take Xanax, Klonopin? You know, they might have a perfectly legitimate medical reason for these. Can they take these prescribed drugs such that they can't safely operate a vehicle? Oh, absolutely they can. Absolutely they can, even as prescribed. If it's keeping you from being able to safely operate the vehicle on the public roadways, then sure, you can be held accountable for that.
So we've typically seen that in our practice is, you know, an intoxicated driver is in a wreck bad enough that they cause injuries to someone else. A lot of times the police will draw blood, and that's how they're able to prove that they've got X quantity of Xanax, or they're tested positive for marijuana, or whatever it is that's intoxicating them. Because that's as I understand it, a difficulty for police when they pull someone over is to, you know, we've got the handheld and we've got these different tests we can test for alcohol, but sometimes some of these other drugs can be a little more elusive.
Yeah, difficult to recognize, yeah. And quite often what the police will do is call what they call a drug recognition expert to the scene in order to use their special training to identify someone who might be under the influence of controlled substance, under the influence of, you know, whether it be prescribed or whether it be an illicit substance of some kind.
Well, we want your questions. Either text us or give us a phone call. It's 256-536-0077. We're going to take a little break. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Watching WAAY 31 Law Call. Your rights, your calls, live. Presented by the Tennessee Valley's award-winning personal injury and wrongful death law firm, Timberlake, League & Brooks. Featuring the knowledge and experience of Attorney Michael Timberlake, Attorney Will League, Attorney Heath Brooks, Attorney William Maservi, and hosted by broadcaster and family law attorney Sharon Doviet. This is WAAY 31 Law Call.
We're talking DUI tonight. I've got two great attorneys here who can answer just about anything that you throw at them. Give us a call if you want to have your question, or you can text us to that very same number. Anyway, Brian Beck is here. So.
And Brian has an alter ego we wanted to introduce you to tonight.
What?
Brian is large in the community theater and is Stanley Sanders for the Sanders
Family Christmas. That's
Family
right.
Christmas.
Sanders Family Christmas.
Tell us about it.
Well, we do it every year. Yeah, up at Bird on the Mountain is where it takes place. It'll be December 17th through the 21st. You can get tickets at birdonthemountain.com, and it's the story of the Sanders family as they celebrate Christmas in December 1941, I believe. So it's about 30 Christmas songs. It's a lot of fun. We're always packed out. I think last year we saw all but 6 tickets. I mean, like over the entire run of the show, 6 tickets did not sell. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. We love doing that and look forward to it. And it's a beautiful March foggy day up at Bird on the Mountain when I saw you get married.
That's right. That's right. We got married up there, and it's a beautiful little spot in the world.
Great.
So hits home for both of us, I suppose.
That's right.
Okay, well, we have a text here. So should I take the test if the police pull me over?
Oh, that's the question. That's the $64,000 question, isn't it? All right. My personal opinion is that if you feel there is any way that you're intoxicated in any way, shape, or form, whether that be from alcohol, from controlled substance, from a prescription you might have taken, if there's any way, shape, or form that you would be under the influence or impaired in any way, shape, or form, I don't think you should give any more information to the state or to the police than they already have. All right, that's just my opinion. I think at that point, the only thing you can do is hurt yourself. If you're looking to defend yourself from a possible DUI, something along those lines, standardized field sobriety test, any kind of portable breathalyzer test, Drager, that might have some deleterious effects on your driver's license, but a conviction for DUI does too. So at this point, I would say no.
So how do you do that, though, Brian? You know,
Sure.
they're going to be there. They're going to have the handheld device. They're going to say, look, you know, we just want to run you through some simple tests just to make sure you're safe to drive.
Absolutely.
They can be very persistent. So what are the words that you would use to...
I'd ask politely. First of all, I'd comply. You know, first of all, comply. Should you roll your window all the way down? Yes, you should roll your window all the way down. Should you leave the vehicle if they tell you to get out of the vehicle? Yes, get out of the vehicle. Follow all lawful orders from the police officers. But if you felt like you didn't want to participate in the standardized field sobriety test, just ask, am I under arrest? Am I being detained? If so, I don't consent to any search of my person. I don't consent to a search of my vehicle, and I'd like to speak with an attorney. And I think that's going to be good. But being polite and being respectful is going to help you a lot.
Well, we've got a caller holding. Wayne from Huntsville. Wayne,
Yes.
what's your question?
Go ahead, Wayne.
Yes. Yes. I was stopped. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. Turn your TV down. Listen through the phone.
I was stopped for my license plate light was out, and so the police, they got me out the car because they said I had been drinking, and he offered me all the sobriety tests and everything, and I refused them. And then finally, you know, he kept offering it to me. I refused it. And then we went down to the police station, and he said that he wanted me to take another test down there, and I refused that. But my question is, in his police report, he stated that I failed every sobriety test he gave me, and he didn't give me any.
Guys?
Sounds like a great fact to me. if we can show that that there's some sort of inaccuracy, you know, something along those lines, then we could ideally exploit that to, you know, my client's benefit. If he did not, in fact, participate in those standardized field sobriety tests, and the officer saying that he did, then that would be something we can use to our advantage. Actually, my very first DUI trial that I ever won was similar facts to that right there. When the officer swore up and down that she walked off of this line, she was walking the line in the parking lot. I finally got a hold of the video, and guess what? No line. So we just based on that inaccuracy in the officer's statement, we turned that into a not guilty for my
And do you
client.
find that happening fairly often or every now and then?
Not often. Not often. The police reports, I got to tell you, they're usually pretty accurate. These are professionals who are out there doing their jobs. Not to say that we can't defend you, not to say that there's not something we can use to your benefit, and we're going to turn over every single stone there is. But I got to tell you, got a lot of respect for our local law enforcement. They do their jobs pretty well.
Yeah. So we were representing a driver who had been struck by an intoxicated driver, suffered injuries, and part and parcel to the lawsuit, we were able to obtain the body cam footage of the officers of the intoxicated driver. And one of the interesting things was they left the intoxicated driver in the backseat of the car for a time, but they still had a body cam on him. And during this time that this individual's in the backseat of the car, he's apologizing to his mother. He's, you know, saying all sorts of things that were then later used against him, both criminally and civilly.
Yeah.
For, you know, and so I think, you know, it's not a situation people are prepared for.
Yeah.
And does it matter if they're an adult or, say, a teenager?
I'll give you the typical lawyer answer and say it depends. Yeah, sometimes we can use that someone's youth to their advantage. If they're charged with a crime that an adult might be looking at jail time, we might have some other options if that person is actually under the age.
We have a text that says about getting your license back. It's been his was suspended for 5 years. What's the process?
That's a toughie. there is a reinstatement. I'd show it to you on my phone. I can send you the numbers. But there's a series of reinstatement offices across the state that'll be able to answer that question for you better than a criminal defense
Each time it's going to involve a fine, reinstatement fee
Yes.
of some sort?
Yes, absolutely.
And then, generally speaking, do you have to clear whatever the event that precipitated the license getting suspended in the first place?
Absolutely. Get a clearance letter, maybe from here in Huntsville, maybe from Madison County, maybe from another county in Alabama, maybe from another state. But you're going to have to clear up those issues. In the driver's license division of the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency is going to be able to help you out there and kind of point you in the right direction if you can get them on the phone.
Now, in Alabama, you can get a DUI wiped off your record under certain circumstances?
If you participate in the diversion program that we talked about, or maybe Veterans Court, or maybe mental health court, all right? What we're looking for is a null process in connection with those cases, but your record is not like a single concept. Your record is a spectrum, right? Over here you have your Facebook page, all right? You can post it, you can falsify it, you can delete it completely, all right? Now over here on the right we have the National Criminal Information Center. That is your permanent government record. That is every time your name goes into a government computer, and there it will stay until the mountains crumble into the sea or Western democracy fails. Can't do anything about that. But down from that, you can get that portion of your record that's available to businesses, employers, schools, certain lawyers, judges. You can get that wiped away.
And one of the calls we always seem to get at our office is, you know, hey, look, got arrested for DUI, but I was on a golf cart, not in an automobile, or I was on a bicycle.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I think this is a kind of a common misconception that the general public has, is that you can only get a DUI in an automobile. But that's not true.
No, I've had a few boating DUIs.
Boats, ATVs,
lawnmowers. Sure. Why not?
riding lawnmower.
Yeah, riding lawnmower, absolutely. Yeah, he decided to cut his neighbor's lawn, and he was my client for about 10 years ago, but he was cutting the neighbor's lawn and going across and cutting. He was like, heck, I'll just keep going and just keep cutting this lawn right here. You know, they got out there and gave him a
So if it's got wheels.
If it's got wheels.
Or it floats, I suppose.
Yeah, or floats for that matter. Yeah. Or flies, I suppose.
So,
well, if you've got questions, you give us a call here. We'll be back in just a moment. If you didn't get through tonight or didn't get your question answered, give our good buddy Brian Beck a call. Here in Huntsville, it's 256-539-0096 or brianbecklaw.com. And also, especially if you get injured, it's William Meservey, Timberlake, League and Brooks, here in Huntsville, 256-536-0770 or 800-804-2502, law-injury.com.
We appreciate Robert Lane sitting in tonight for the Sharon Doviet, who wasn't able to be here tonight, but practices family law and is here in Huntsville, 256-539-7337, www.sharonfamilylaw.com. So one last quick question I think we have time for, Brian, but get this asked sometimes as well. .08 is the legal limit.
Yes.
And what does that equate to? You know, if you go out to dinner and get a glass of wine, are you going to be?
Yeah. I'm a 110-pound housewife, maybe 2 glasses of wine. 200-pound husband, 3 beers in an hour. It depends on a lot of different things. It depends on your metabolism, but
all right,
that's about it. That'll do it.
Sharon will be back next weekend. Thanks for joining us.
Have a great night.
Bye-bye.